Hey everybody, this is Jason Khoo, founder and CEO of Zupo and host of the Tactical Marketing Podcast. Today's episode is our final episode of season 1, and we have a goodie. It is a compilation episode of all my favorite parts from all the guests and conversations that we had this season. So this is portions of interviews that I found the most compelling and most interesting, and I really wanted to compile them all in one place and share them all with you. So without further ado, let's jump on in. What I want to drill down on is the tactical side, which you said, and that's where I want to go with it, is you said you had emailed your list and you only opened it after you had 100 and 200 people. Can you, what did that mean, specifically? You had 100 people say they were interested, or what did that mean?
We had them actually request to join. And so there wasn't automatic joining. So you had to request and fill out a few things, I agree not to be a weirdo and stuff like that. So once we had 100 people, I think, in the queue requesting to be in the group, we let them all in at the same time.
That's so interesting because I'm not a social media marketer, but I watched enough. I feel like most people are probably opening Facebook communities by just starting one and inviting a bunch of people and then seeing it drip in. No pun intended, but just letting people come into the group. But you more so close the door and then you let everybody in at the same time, almost like a party or a concert. And that probably lended itself to a good start then. Would you, I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think, was that the thought for
that? That was the goal. We didn't want there to be 5 people. It's if there's 5 people at the bar, or you let them wait in a line outside and then the queue gets long and then you let them all in. It's the vibe and the energy is different. And there's a higher likelihood that people will engage. And so we did have to wait till our email list was of a certain size, because we know that a fraction of the email list was going to be the people who would actually join the community. So our email list had to be big enough so that we could push people over to the community.
When we get to the top of the search results, forget links and content is the priority. The priority is making sure that we're the one that's selected and we're the one that they stay on. And that how we do that is just continuously improve our page, make it, convert better, make it load faster, make it more accessible, right? Eric Engie said this at Stone Temple when it was Stone Temple at the time, that you should pay attention to every user, not just your base user. So there's that 80-20, and everyone's well, let's just focus on the 20 that we really care about. And that works to many degrees, but you have to imagine that if there's an accessibility issue and it's a tiebreaker between you and someone who's addressed accessibility, that accessibility searcher is going to choose the competitor. So I think it's important to care about every user and every technology, every device, every internet connection speed, every browser that they're going to be using, and making sure that you've thought of everybody, not just, and where would I start? Of course, is I would start with the ones that are driving the most traffic, but I'd work my way down and make sure I provided a good experience for everybody.
Can we talk about your work with Jasper? I believe your work with Jasper predates ChatGPT. But I think it would be really good for the listeners, because I think it'll be a great example of where AI at human level need for strategy kind of come into play.
Yeah, so I'm going to make sure I only share what I'm allowed to share. But our engagement with them started off with, they had almost no content on their blog. And they came to us and said, we don't know what to produce yet. We know the topics we want to be known for. We know how we want to talk about the product. We need to make sure that we're going to be producing high quality content that actually addresses the pain points and questions that our audience has. And we need it to drive product signups. And it's that last point that's really important, because you can use Jasper to write content. I mean, I think at this point, Jasper should know a lot about Jasper, the tool, to be able to write about it. But for anyone else using these tools, these AI tools aren't going to understand your product or how to weave it into the content. So that's what we were able to do very well. We would write about these use cases or these jobs to be done, and there would always be a way to interweave product into the article, so that is naturally something that addresses their job to be done as they're reading it. And we were able to analyze, okay, we like this type of content is what drives the most traffic. This type of content is what drives the most product signups. And we're seeing that we're driving a ton of traffic and it's not really converting to signups as much. But we also noticed in the portfolio we've built, we have relied a lot more on traffic than driving conversions to start. So it was that us jumping in and reviewing what we've done to then help us iterate on the next phase of our engagement together to say, we know what type of content will drive people to use the product. And we know that once they use the product, they're this percentage likely to upgrade into a paid tier, which will result in this much revenue. So let's produce more of that content. And some of it is just going to be very focused on a product. Some of it is going to be focused on jobs to be done. But essentially, we weren't writing much more of that, like what is content. We were going straight into the specific use cases.
So honestly, I'm not even going to add anything to that. I think that was just the perfect example of, dude, it was Jasper itself. And I respect Jasper. I actually have to use Jasper for one of my own projects I work on. They had a great tool. They had an amazing AI generated tool, but they still needed a team, David, in David's case, his team, for you guys to come in and just do the strategy and analysis and let Jasper like do its thing, but you're leading and strategizing around it. Honestly, that's
an
example.
I mean, the other thing to point out too is Jasper is in a very crowded space. There's a lot of these generative AI tools now. Like Copy AI is a very popular one. ChatGPT came out when we were working with them. But the thing that, and this is me like shilling Jasper, like they're not paying me to say this, but the thing that makes me confident about them is we looked at Copy AI, we looked at the other tools, and we said, this is what they're doing. We recommend you don't do it, but is that the direction you want to go? They said, no, we don't want to do that. And that's the strategic trade-off, right? Like Copy AI has a very good SEO program. Like their CEO commented on one of my LinkedIn posts and he was like, yep, the strategy is working for us. I'm like, yeah, we analyzed it and it is working for you. Like we respect what you're doing. We're just taking a very different tack with Jasper. And it's because they're going after a different persona, different use case. Their product marketing is very different. So how they talk about themselves and their positioning is going to be different as well.
It's like business or marketing in college. Like there's already someone kind of a little ahead, not even a little ahead of you. It behooves you to take a different strategy so that you differentiate or, position. Like, is it something where it's just a time thing where after 5 days you change the ad, or do they need to re-engage? What is that mix looking like?
That's a great question. I think some of our most common triggers for someone to graduate from one piece to another is how deep did they go on the page, right? If someone only went on your homepage, then you could probably ascertain that they're probably on the upper side of that funnel, right? So they probably need to watch episode 1. But if someone went all the way to the product detail page, or maybe even to the cart page, then that person is definitely more invested. They probably learned a lot more about the brand. So you can kind of steer them toward that piece of the funnel, right? Another kind of big trigger point for us is what is the number of touch points that they had? Like, did they visit 2 times in the last 7 days, or did they visit 7 times, right? Someone who has visited many, many, many times is probably going to be further down the funnel than someone who has only visited once, right? And you combine that with like the different look back windows, the different time ranges. And then that's probably like a good place to start without getting too crazy and too granular with the segments.
So the time ranges then for you, it clicks in time. The 2 major touch points right now are engagement on the website. How deep are they navigating and clicking through? And the second dimension or variable, I'm not a scientist, so I always throw around these random things, but second variable is time, like how long has it been, or how long were they on the website essentially? Right.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And so to me, to understand the sequential thing, to really flesh this out, could you execute it in a way, when I say could you, I mean like you're recommended. I'm sure you can do anything you want, but could you just do a sequential retargeting where, hey, they came on the website one time, they went on the homepage and they left. Give them the story. After 7 days, give them a different one where it's talking about the product. And then after another 7 days, do this. Is that a way of doing something the sequential, or are you more recommending like, no, the sequence is driven when they come back. If they click here, now show them the next ad. Like, how is the sequential executing for you?
I think the first scenario that you mentioned is the place to start, right? Like, again, we don't want to build like a massive labyrinth of choices, right? Like, especially for a lot of brands, I think the first piece is already like a step above, and you should be able to get some pretty big return, right? Like, I think there's comes to a point for every brand where there's diminishing returns, right? So I think I would start there. And again, if you're not seeing the results that you're looking for, or your segments are just simply too large, or, maybe something's not clicking, then you can, pivot and try something else and maybe get a little deeper. But I think that first scenario that you mentioned is a really good framework, at least specifically for e-commerce. That's a really good framework to start off with.
One of those frameworks where like after I've heard it and said it out loud, I'm like, duh, like of course, like we all want to market. Why wouldn't you do it that way? But like before this interview, because when we were emailing each other, we didn't get this deep.
So we use it to hand anything that has a brick and mortar, as well as, the ideal state is anything that has an online portal of whether it's e-commerce or lead generation, and then also couples that with a brick and mortar physical location. Because there's a lot of times, let's say 60% of your sales are coming through your brick and mortar, 40% of your sales are coming through e-commerce, or flip that around. If you're only optimizing your campaign against one or the other, you're obviously missing a fairly significant portion of the pie of whatever's happening in that physical reality. So for us, working in the restaurant context, the standard implementation would have, how many people are we getting to the site? From the geo side of things, it would be, hey, if we're looking at somebody who's looking up a store locator, you'd say, hey, that's a high intent activity. Aren't we awesome? We're done with that person, or we'll change the flow to that person a little bit later on. Or they'd go off and possibly another user would go into the e-com side, order a meal for pickup, order a meal for delivery, and then you'd pat yourself on the back. You'd throw some ROI on the sheet and you'd say, job well done. Let's put them into an activation mode for, return. For us, there's a lot of steps that can happen, and there's a lot of places that can get, you can find a hiccup from somebody going online and finding if a location is near them to them actually then going in. How do we ensure to our clients that, hey, that this is an actual transaction that's happening? We are getting people to come in. And then so we set up in our system the way to find if that person who came to the website, who looked at an ad, also then wound up at one of your physical locations, actually sat in a booth at your restaurant. So we could then say, yes, not only did they look at the store finder, but we actually saw them walk in your restaurant and they were there for long enough where we're going to check a box that says, you don't sit in a restaurant for 15 minutes and just have a glass of water and order nothing and check out the crowd. You're at least going to stop in for a cocktail or something.
What do you need to do? You need to associate yourself with the correct entities within your niche. And that means identifying them, and your gut feeling might well be wrong. You might be a huge fan of Rand Fishkin, but he's actually not close enough to me in terms of what I'm trying to achieve, or perhaps Barry Schwartz would be a better idea. He's too much in SEO. Rand Fishkin's probably close because I'm moving towards marketing. So if I want to move towards marketing, I need to associate myself with Rand Fishkin more than Barry Schwartz or Joe Paluzzi, because he's in marketing, content marketing. So you need to connect yourself to the correct entities. You need to amplify the correct attributes, and you need to amplify the correct signals around what it is you're doing. So just writing for search engine land, you can actually leverage that even further by making sure that you're talking about topics that are as close as possible to the heart of what you need to talk about. So you might be tempted to write about something slightly different because you want to be a bit wacky. Your best bet is to write the core stuff on these platforms and then also write it on your own website. Do 2 articles about the same topic, rank twice, and Google will understand that not only on your own website are you an expert in this specific niche topic, niche down, but search engine land agrees. So I just wrote an article for search engine land, which is how to optimize your brand SERP, or how to build a digital marketing strategy, from your brand SERP, giving all my secrets away. But we've also got the same article pretty much on our own website, written slightly differently. And that is how I'm going to nail the authority in the brand SERP and digital marketing space.
I love that you said that, because I think that that's probably what the plan is. But,
Yeah.
When I first got to learn about this topic, I think so far you're the main guy who's leading this topic in the web right now. So, sometimes when I look up articles, very respectfully roll my eyes like, I've seen this article for the 5th time. I know what the structure of it is, but it's a corroboration and quantity game, essentially, though. You're trying to really hone in on Google. And so that's just one of those byproducts, I guess, right?
It's repetition the child needs to understand. I talk about Google as a child. We need to educate it. This child learns by repetition. But it's also, from my perspective, we were going to talk about moats, and I'm just going to mention it really quickly.
We can go right into that if you want. Yeah.
My moat is to have a layer of content around my niche topic that I coined and invented so thick and so complete that anybody coming after me will struggle to break through, or at least they will never dominate. I will always be present, and this red shirt will always be somewhere visible on the SERP and on social media and around the web generally. So it's creating that protective layer, which is my moat, by creating all of this content, as you say, repetitive, but helpful.
So I think what we were talking about specifically was you wanting to start this podcast, and like, should you have long form full episodes on the same channel with like short clips and like maybe actual shorts, like the vertical format? And my stance on this is always that you want consistency of the type of content on the channel. So if you have 1 hour long podcasts, that's fine. You probably should have all of your videos be like similar. And this is not like a hard and fast rule. You can deviate a little bit, but it's like, generally speaking, when you get a new viewer or subscriber, you want them to have a somewhat consistent experience throughout the content on that channel. So if someone gets used to watching like your 5-minute little clips from your podcast and they've consumed, let's say, 10 of those, it's less likely that all of a sudden they're going to want to watch a 1 hour full length thing. Now, some people will, and that's why I think that what makes a lot of sense is to have multiple channels where it's like you have maybe short clips from your podcast where you can be more creative with the titling and thumbnailing and get people's attention. And then within that, you have a link to the full length thing. So if they want to see the whole thing, they can go watch that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I feel like, though, if you're just all on the same channel, like having people like get, what they're used to, like a short thing, and then they're served like a long thing, not a whole lot of people are going to want to like invest that full hour necessarily. It's kind of, you're kind of attracting a different audience. And I've just literally before this had a conversation with some YouTube friends, and we had the same conversation about shorts. It's a complicated thing right now because a lot of YouTubers feel like shorts are hurting their channel still. And one of the, who knows if it is or is not, it's hard to say, but one of the theories I still have is like, well, if your channel's growing a whole lot because you're getting people who like your shorts, but that's not the same type of person who's going to watch your long form content, it's something to consider. It's like there should be some like synergy between the two format types ideally.
So you're not saying this, but arguably you could have the long form, the short forms, and then even the YouTube Shorts version, so that there are 3 different areas essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe it would make more sense to potentially have like the shorter clips and the shorts on the same channel, because those are getting pretty similar. But yeah, you could potentially split those into 3 different channels too.
And I like what you said about like users wanting the same, time period or, time limit for the videos. Cause I follow a lot of comedians on YouTube who like make 10-second, maybe 30-second skits. If the skit's really funny, maybe a minute, but like I'm like ProZD, he makes like what, 10-second skits, right? He does like the Vine stuff, like Vine time. But like, I'm not talking about ProZD, but there's like other comedians who are like, they'll put like an hour vlog, and I'm like, dude, I watch your 10-second videos. Why do I want an hour long vlog?
And so
that's not gonna work. Yeah,
that's the whole thing about like the viewer behavior, right? If someone's used to watching like short little clips from someone, it's like a small percentage of people are going to want to watch the hour long behind the scenes vlog. Like the super fans maybe, and that's where that's where maybe you like link to that kind of stuff and give people the opportunity to know it exists. But like, if you're trying to optimize for viewer behavior, what you really want is that every time someone sees one of your videos, they click it, especially if it pulls up on the browse sections, which are basically effectively your homepage, like especially that top left position or like the top position on mobile. Like that's like the cream of the crop, best spot for your video to show up, because that's like the most engaged viewer for your channel. So every time your video shows up there and they don't click because, oh, I don't want to watch an hour long behind the scenes vlog, I just want this guy's like short little clips that are funny, like that's basically training YouTube that, oh, this person's not that interested in this content anymore, which might not be true. They might be interested. They're just, it's serving them the wrong content from that channel. So you can kind of do yourself a favor by having consistency of similar content on the channel so that they don't have to make that decision of, not watching something.
So for the videos or the marketing teams that are listening that have like maybe that like hour-long panel video, which we all know it's probably not gonna be the greatest because the camera is far away, but hey, you got to work with what you have right now, right? So arguably what they could do is keep that channel, that's great, but then maybe create a second channel and split that panel video into, I don't know how many shorts you can get out of it, like, or not shorts, but like short 5-minute clips, right?
And I would go by topics. So like, I would assume that on an hour-long panel like that, they're probably not talking about the same thing for the full hour. There's probably like, let's say 10 different micro conversations within that. So, break that into clips. And then what that gives you the opportunity to do is then you can get creative about thumbnailing and titling. It's like, that's where it takes your marketing brain to kind of like, study what's working on YouTube and kind of try some different formats and stuff. But that gives you a lot of opportunity to test different things while you still have like on your other channel, you still have the full thing and you can link back. Hey, you want to watch the full like panel? Here's a link to it. So that kind of, that way you get a benefit. There's this kind of advanced thing on YouTube called like the clustering effect. I have a friend named Daryl Eves. He's like a YouTube genius. And he's the first one I've seen really talk about this in like a kind of organized way. But you'll notice as you get deeper into YouTube, you'll see my favorite example of this right now is in golf content. I really love playing golf. And so I watch a lot of golf YouTube. And there's a lot of these golf channels where it's like, they'll have this clustering effect where one person will like do like a match with another creator. And then like that person will have a match with a different creator. And then like all of a sudden you're getting recommended all of these other creators that you might not have seen before who are all in that golf kind of sphere because they all sort of collaborate together. And that's a really powerful effect because then just by nature of sort of being in that circle, you'll start to kind of get recommendations from similar content like that. And you can orchestrate it if you're smart about, making content that's like similar to each other and have different channels that all have kind of that crossover effect.
Got it. So it's almost from a strategic so from, let's say I control the channel and let's just use the golf one, but I don't play golf. So if I butcher this, I apologize to everybody. I don't play golf.
It's okay.
You're saying though, like you own a golf channel and you know that there are other creators that maybe are on your level, even better if they're doing better than you, but you can go to them and confidently say, hey, we should do maybe I be in your video, you be in my video. Yep. And it will help both of us because now we have access to each other's pools and we know YouTube will start understanding we're all in the same cluster. And if we do it enough, we're almost going to be a unit that's being recommended. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yep. So one of the big things that YouTube's always looking for is to find similar content to things you just enjoyed, right? So if someone watches this entire hour-long talk that we're doing and they really enjoyed it, well, they might also be interested in like some of the other, like My First Million or these other podcasts that are, maybe a somewhat similar format. And so that's really good for you because then people, if it starts making that association, oh, this content's like people who like this also like this kind of, well, Amazon's done that for years, right? People who bought this also bought this. It's the same principle on YouTube where it's like, if people who are watching some of these other shows, if like, oh, Jason's show is kind of similar to this, I wonder if this person would enjoy this show as well. Like you'll start to see that behavior on YouTube. And, if you're smart about it, you can facilitate that by doing collaborations and projects with people who have similar content, or as a business, you can even have multiple channels where you collaborate with your own channels in that way. So it's like you have short clips that then push people to like a long form version of the same thing. So then not only are they getting served like short clips from your podcast, they're also getting served the full length ones. And so they kind of choose here and there what they want to watch.
What's funny is that as a viewer, whenever there's a guest on the YouTube video, I'm always like, who the hell is this?
Yeah.
And then there's like a 50% chance I start following them after.
Sure.
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
As a marketer and as a, when you're a consumer and a viewer, you're not supposed to be that rational. Like I that's one of those things I'm like, you can kind of do whatever the heck you want as a viewer. So you have to be picky. Like, no, I have brand loyalty to just this guy. But if someone guest appears, I just know there's a 50% chance I'm going to be consuming their content. And it always annoys me, but it happens all the time.
There's a lot of things you can do, right? Obviously, ChatGPT is the first one. I'm just going to tell you one basic thing with ChatGPT, and we'll jump to everything else, is what's your prompt library? Every good person, every good professional, any person, what is your library, right? And so if you're a cook, you have a cookbook. If you're a musician, you have a notebook, right? If you're a writer, you've got your swipe files, right? What's your prompt swipe files, right? If you have those, it's really helpful because then you can just kind of thumb through your swipe files and pull out what you need. So step one, get your swipe files ready. right? Put that together for prompts. That's one. And I have something for that at the end, but that's another piece of the conversation. Two, Midjourney. Midjourney is an amazing tool that you can use to be able to create images on the fly, to be able to make the marketing copy that goes with things. Midjourney is a really powerful tool as well that can be really useful for you on things that you want to do. Another one that is really good is a thing called DID, D-ID. What it is you can upload a photo of someone's face, like it could be an anime character, it could be you, and then it moves your mouth like this and kind of talks la, 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 which is really nice because I've seen a lot of ads that are on the internet of like some Zen Buddha dude or a crazy soldier warrior guy, and they're actually using that DID as a replacement actor. Now you compare that with a thing called 11 Labs, and 11 Labs is voice cloning. So you can clone your own voice or other people's voices, and that's really useful as well. So you pair generative AI, right, with voice cloning, with facial mimicry using DID, and now you have an entire stack of technologies that can help you be able to create these videos and images that are really cool. Other ones that you can take a look at that are on the plate that are still, they're getting better and not quite there yet, but really good is Runway ML. Runway ML is a video generative system that you can upload one thing and make it look like another thing. So for example, what I mean by that is you can take a video of me like this talking and you see me like this, and all of a sudden you say, make Dylan look like a pirate, and it'll do images of series of new images of making me look like a pirate. It'll give me a pirate hat and all that stuff and do the copy on top of it. Now you do a series of those together, right? And you can make a movie. So if you start to stack generative text with generative voice and generative facials with images, which is diffusion. Anyways, you take all those ones along with videos and you can put that all together and you can make something that's unique sum of the parts. There's a really cool guy, I can't think of his name, but he kept snapping his fingers in this like video online, and he would change from looking like just a, normal looking white guy to like an alien, to like a butler, to like a monster, to like a robot. And he was using this generative video to be able to tell a more compelling story.
Interesting fact that this podcast's logo or whatever cover art is made with Midjourney. But just a shameless plug in there. Yeah, I used Midjourney to create the cover art for this podcast.
It's a good thing in the pipe. Opus Pro is one of those things you take long form video. So let's take this podcast. And then after this podcast is done, go and upload into Opus Pro. And there's several other ones that are like Opus Pro. But what it will do, it will take a 55-minute podcast and turn it into 15 short form videos that are less than a minute long, put them in vertical format, and then put the Alex Ramosi style captions on top of it. And all you do is you upload it, right? So you upload it, it takes long form video and you put it into short form video. Then you take that short form video and you put it on something like one of the reposting services like repurpose.io, and now you can repurpose that all across the net. So for podcasters, stacking Opus Pro with repurpose.io will take your long form copy and then disseminate it in these hooks all throughout social media.
You probably know this. Influencer marketing was, for the past 2 years, has been like the buzz. I have dealt with it so much. I have found the CAC is through the roof. The ROAS is nominal at best in most cases. And the cost to get a macro influencer is cost prohibitive for most new businesses and things like that. But what I have found is that if you look at influencer marketing from a different lens, instead of looking at it for sales, for revenue and things like that, for the reach, I group influencers now in that same category as video creators, right? Where I don't pick out conversions with them. I have found that finding micro influencers, a lot of times they'll work for free product, and it's a win-win because you get it for essentially nothing. And they're trying to kind of make their way and build their own audience to become a macro influencer someday. I found you can give away product or pay very little money, negotiate to own the content where you have permissions to use it however you want. And if you do that, if your content game is weak, and not to bring ageism into this because I fit in the category, but I've seen so many times where businesses, managers, startup people in the maybe starting ages 40s and up, they're just weak at content creation. Again, I'm in that demographic. I watch my 11-year-old make her hockey TikTok videos and I'm amazed at how well she could edit. And I'm not like that, right? But if you look at influencer marketing less as revenue generation and more as affordable content, you can take those, you can slice them up, throw them into your ad campaigns. And without needing to spend $500 or $1,000 on a video editor to come shoot your products and create a handful of reels,
Okay, we know it's like 10x that price. Yeah, it's like 10x that price to do that. Yeah.
I was thinking the college kid who's willing to come over.
Oh yeah, no, I was thinking about the production company that's going to come to your reels. Yeah.
But you can give away product to these micro influencers, have them create video of all different styles for essentially free. You take that content, throw it into your campaigns. And now without needing to be an expert on content creation and UGC, you're able to give your campaigns a foothold that it is.
And so you find that there's a lot of micro influencers or video people who would welcome doing it at a free to an affordable cost. Like you've encountered it more than a couple of times and everything.
Yeah. And you have to temper your expectations. They're not going to be as good as Kim Kardashian making a video for you. But you have to remember, a lot of these new initiatives, a lot of startups, they have limited resources. So it's a lot better than what you would have got. You get a lot more mileage out of it. And so I bring this up in tactic because the campaign tactics, they require so much good content that a lot of small business owners, they just don't have the skill set. That's just a good, affordable way to get yourself some content to get going.